All doctors to the ER.
Do these guys have any idea what they are talking about?
Get squared away.
Spiritual.
Get squared away.
Emotional.
Get squared away.
Mental.
Get squared away.
Physical.
The podcast that'll help you get squared away.
New year, new you. Let's fucking go. We were just talking about the meme. Yeah, that's what I was doing. We were just talking about all the New Year's memes, man.
We're flying around. Everybody's got some advice on what to do with the new year.
Everybody's going to do something. I guess, starting today is better than starting tomorrow. But motherfuckers, you should have started like 6-8 months ago.
Just like we talked about last time, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to make a change, just do it.
I learned something new this week.
Uh-oh.
Pot increases your aromatization of testosterone into estrogen. So then it causes a higher percentage of estrogen to testosterone, and then your body downregulates testosterone. So it's possible that the ease of use of marijuana in our population today is causing
effeminate men.
Yes.
Damn. Well, that explains a lot.
I mean, think about
what was that first term?
Aromatization.
It sounds like
aromatization. I had to figure out because it's I want to say amateurization, like a loan.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's aromatization. So basically that's
aroma.
So men have testosterone and estrogen, and women have testosterone and estrogen, right? We just have a ton more testosterone than estrogen. They have a ton more estrogen than testosterone. But they do similar things in our body. So your body creates testosterone, and this is for men. I'm not sure if the women might create estrogen, but men's body in your balls and a few other places creates testosterone. And then that testosterone, a little bit of it gets aromatized into estrogen, and then estrogen does its thing. And like on a hormone test, it's called estradiol. That's E2. Yeah. If your body has very good compensatory mechanisms when something gets out of whack.
Yeah.
So if your estrogen is entirely too high, your body knows that comes from testosterone. So it'll downregulate your testosterone. So it'll actually decrease the hormones in your body that make you masculine because there's too much of it getting turned into estrogen.
Wow. Yeah, and that's true. That's under chemistry, under the dictionary. Aromatized.
I don't make this shit up, bro.
In primate brains, testosterone is aromatized to estrogen.
There you go. Wow. See?
I've never heard that term.
Yeah.
Guess I got to start reading that dictionary. What word a day thing?
Yeah. But so it was really interesting to me because I may or may not have started partaking in the last 6 months nightly for sleep. And I'm not sure. Somebody asked me if this is the same for CBD. I don't know if it's the same for CBD because the original studies that pointed to all of this were done just with normal marijuana. But
CBD is a pure derivative.
It's a derivative, but we don't know. Like without seeing the science, you don't know if the CBD could be coming from the CBD, the derivative, because CBD is in marijuana, so it could be coming from that. We don't know, right? THC. THC and CBD are both in marijuana. CBD has no THC. It is a plant that is the same but doesn't create any THC.
Yeah.
And then there's Delta 8 THC, which is legal, but it's non-psychoactive. So like you can go buy Delta 8 THC, which is Delta 9 THC is the normal THC that you have that pot has, right? So, but we don't know that it's coming from CBD. So I want to just get that out there because somebody asked me that and I'm not 100% sure.
Right. So the part 2 follow-up of this is what in pot actually
and how do you do that? Like that's a pretty extravagant study, that they would have to do. And we are not funding that study clearly.
Yeah. So you've been taking the CBD gummies to sleep, right?
Yeah. The CBD gummies
so your
to
tits
sleep.
Been getting sore.
No, but my testosterone in March was 760. My testosterone in December was 460.
Dang, that's right. Yeah. That's right. I'm like 90 years old and I got higher test.
No, you have higher free test.
Free test.
So anybody that wants to get in, if you want to message me, I've done some amazing amount of research in this area in the last 6 months. I still don't know everything, but I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on it. But your free test, so you have a total test, which is that big number that I just said. Mine was 768 and then it was 468. Yours was like 390 and you're like 100. And that then some of that gets taken up by sex hormone binding globulin. And then some of that is used and converted into estrogen. And then there's a little bit left that is considered free test. And free test is what builds muscle, gives you the overall euphoric, confident feeling. It's everything that comes with being a man comes from the free testosterone levels. So you could have a really high regular test level, but you could also have something wrong with your body or something inactive, or you're using too much of it because you're training too hard or anything like that. And your free test levels could be at the floor.
Yeah.
And you could still have all the low test symptoms, but your actual test level is completely fine. And if you guys want, I mean, you could go to the More Plates, More Dates, Derek from More Plates, More Dates. He's got a lot of great videos. The Anabolic Doc has some great videos, and there's a ton of really good videos that you guys can watch and really get a handle on how all this works, because it's all compensatory mechanisms. If you elevate your testosterone, you're also going to elevate your estrogen, and it's a ratio, and certain things will totally screw up all your estrogen levels. And these are all like things that you need to know if you're taking any supplements that are messing with your hormones, or if you're taking any exogenous hormones. These are all things that you can't just, like, a good doctor won't just put you on TRT and then just let you roll.
Yeah. You're
going to have pre-tests. You're going to have post-tests. They're going to alter things. They're going to get you on aromatase inhibitors. If your estrogen levels are too high, these are all things that are needed. But that's where I got across the pot thing. It was like, holy shit. Like, there's no saying that that's what caused my number to go almost in half. But it's a possibility.
Yeah. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah.
Never heard of that, but I mean, I started supplementing, we were talking about DHEA the other day. Yeah. So I started
taking my DHEA levels on my tests were way on, like, mine were trash compared to yours. So that was also where we got on to, telling you about the DHEA.
Yeah. So I'm taking 50 milligrams
a day
in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I just finished off a cycle of Fidalis agrestis with Long Jack.
Oh yeah.
So I just tried one cycle of that. So these are all natural supplements.
Yep.
So I've been taking those in the evening, but it wasn't like I was having any issues.
Yeah.
But, we always talk about checking our levels. I had that blood test, and yeah, I mean, I'm not in bad shape. For my age, I'm doing well. It's just, I'm looking long term.
Yep.
I just don't want it to, be on the decline. And
no, and now you know where your levels are as you feel fine, right? So if in a year you notice like, hey, I'm kind of feeling lethargic, or I'm feeling weak, or any of those things, you can go in and get a blood test and you can compare that to where you're at now, and you'll be all right. And if any of you guys want to do this, it's awesome. I mean, you can go to, I think it's called Health Labs, and they have draw locations all over the US. We have a draw location 10 minutes from where we're recording right now, and you just schedule your appointment. They have a little checklist. You check off what you want, and they'll do I mean, you can do, like, I had a complete hormone panel, but I also had a health panel done. So that has all your cholesterol. I got a prostate stimulating PSA and everything else done just to see if there was any elevated numbers there, which everything was good. The only thing is my carbon monoxide in my blood was high. Weird, since you have to wear masks.
Oh, really?
That's high? The only thing I can think of.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I was surprised yours was high.
Yeah.
I suppose you're going in and out and having to put one on and off all day, where I'm just sitting at home.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
And you're wearing it when you're in getting the blood test, right? I mean, that's going to cause you're in the doctor's office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They didn't.
No, so I wore mine.
Oh, okay.
I'm just so used to it for work. So I wore mine. But yeah, there was a ton of people that came in and out without them.
Yeah. They had a sign on there that suggested.
Yeah. Because
I think they didn't have a sign before, and then some Karen must have went in there and freaked out. So
yeah. But then the doctor came out. I don't see the doctor there. They're just a blood draw for me. But yeah, he came out and didn't have one on. So
yeah. I mean, the whole goal is, for me, I'm proactively managing my health.
Yeah.
So I want to get ahead of the ball game so that later on it's just either just an adjustment versus, when by the time you got to react to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically got to go. You're in,
and you'll have no idea where
red
you're at.
flag
If you
city.
if you haven't done that initial test, you got no idea what to compare it to.
Yeah.
So if you guys have an extra, $150 and you want to, that's an amazing thing to get done.
Yeah. No, that's great.
What else is new?
It's Wisconsin. It's
It
cold
is.
and
-6 on the way up to Reedsburg this morning.
ooh, I already told my son that, I'm ready for springtime and warm weather.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. The other thing I saw today, there was a meme, I think, that basically was talking about a good part of building a relationship. It was like have you ever heard of a thing called the twos? I think I saved it too.
Twos, like TWOS?
TWOS.
No, I don't think I've ever heard of the twos.
Oh, let me dig this up because this was pretty cool. Yeah, I'm starting to learn how to use these saved in my Instagram.
Yeah, there you go. Then you can save and then come back to it. That's pretty important.
Yeah, save all these workouts.
Yeah, right. Do you do them though?
Well, I use them as tips. Oh, here's a go. Yeah, they said this couple that got married told each other we have a 2-2-2 rule. Every 2 weeks we go out for the evening. Every 2 months we go out for a weekend. Every 2 years we go out for a week. And then people still ask how long our honeymoon phase will last. I think it'll last if we stick to our twos.
I like that, but I think it's also bullshit because that honeymoon stage, you won't want to live in that. I think that it settles, right? Like I think it settles and you become better friends than you ever were during the honeymoon stage. Yeah. But I like that though. I mean, we go on date night every week, so
yeah, the 2-2-2 thing sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was bad. I don't think I did that. So
you look back, right, and you're able to grow from it and learn from it, and yeah, it happens, right? Like, my relationship's a million times better today than it ever was 5 years ago, 7 years ago. But that took a lot of pain. It took a lot of growth from both of us. And we're talking to my daughter this week because she's been with her boyfriend now 2 years.
Ooh, the 2
Yeah, the 2-year mark. And my wife told her, she said, I know that we look like everything is really good on the outside, right? Like it's shiny and cozy. And this is for you guys out there too. That doesn't come without work. That takes a lot of hard conversations and a lot of pain and a lot of growth and a lot of, I don't like this about you. And then it takes you growing and learning and adapting and becoming a better person for your spouse and a better person for yourself. And that shit isn't always easy.
No, but if you can find somebody that's willing to do that, both, having a two-way challenge and growth, that works. So how often do you guys get the what's the second one?
The weekend away? I would say we probably average every 2 months, 3 months, maybe 4.
Oh, yeah. What about the week?
The week we don't take very often.
No,
we definitely don't take that very often. We're at a weird spot right now, which my oldest daughter is 17, so we're a little nervous to leave her home alone
for a week.
And
grandma and grandpa.
Well, and so that's where it's at. But it's also like to take her away from her job and everything else because they're an hour away.
Yeah.
For a week is also some work, right? So we're in a weird standing point right now where it's like it would be perfect if one of my parents would just come down and stay with them at our house for the week. So like their lives could still maintain.
Yeah.
But she turns 18 in April. So it's like we're at a point where you can see
it's gonna be out of your control.
Yeah. At that point it is out of our control. And maybe then by midsummer, this is so fucking awful to say. By midsummer, maybe we do leave her home with the house by herself.
Better get those cameras hooked up.
I don't want to fucking see what's going on. As long as my house isn't destroyed when I get home, that's all I fucking care about. Put them
up and you tell her that they're up.
Yeah, I'll just like the security cameras at those stores with the fake ones. Where it's just a light that's wired to a battery.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I think my kids know me better than that. So
yeah,
we got live cameras going.
Yeah, we don't have any. There was a bunch of people coming through our neighborhood and we bought cameras and then I took them back. I returned them. I'm like, what am I going to see? I'm going to see that a dude with a hood on came and rifled through my car. Oh, great. A dude with a hood. Like I'm not going to see shit.
I got the units I can talk through.
Yeah. Hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, we're home every single night. Like we don't go places very often. So, but we had a weekend this weekend alone. So it was glorious. It was great. Both kids went up to my parents, which is, we got married on New Year's Eve. So,
oh, really?
yeah, we got married. So it was our anniversary. So both kids went up to my parents and, we hung out, and man, yesterday was we just stayed home. Like, we went and got breakfast and a Bloody Mary, but then after that, we just stayed home for the day and just hung out. It was great.
Well,
just enjoyed each other.
That's good. At
our 11-year anniversary, still just enjoying each other. Speaking of changing, we're gonna take on the growth mindset, because out of last year, I think this is one of the most fundamental podcasts that we did, and it wasn't in the top 9. But I think that the ideas that come from the growth mindset podcast are some of the most imperative to becoming a better person and getting squared away.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's the foundational, it's the bedrock of getting squared away. So, yeah.
So should we define mindset first? Mindset defined is the establish of a set of attitudes held by a person. And attitude is a settled way of thinking or feeling. So basically a consistent way of thinking or feeling. So a lot of this info comes from the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, which we covered in I think this was podcast like 12 or 10 or 15 or some shit like that. Yeah. But if you guys have time, download the book or buy the book. It's a 7-hour book, maybe 250, 300 pages, but really the first half of the book is where all this information comes from. And then the second half of the book is like implementing it in business or implementing it in coaching or implementing it in teaching. And those are great. Those are great also, but that's not where a lot of the info that come from. The real info comes from the first half of the book. And Carol Dweck is I believe a Harvard research scientist who taught all of these things that she did all this original research for, and her students got to a point where they were like, you have to put this in a book, because this information is so amazing and so imperative that people need to be able to grow from it. Right.
Yeah.
And so just to give you an idea, there's 2 different mindsets, right? The fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And nobody really is all one or all of the other. Like everything in life, it's a scale, right? And you're going to have times when you're in more growth mindset, and you're going to have times when you're more fixed mindset. But the idea is to always try to be more growth minded in everything that you do in your life.
Yeah. And I think the difference between the fixed mindset and growth mindset is where are your tendencies, where do they lie right now? So if somebody was to give you something that challenged your way of thinking now, or challenge you to do something different, what's your automatic, thought? So mylearningtools.org, which I actually have up right now, has a really good illustration of the growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And it has a link to a video with Dweck. It just illustrates a picture of somebody that has a growth mindset, fixed mindset, and what are characteristics. So if somebody has a fixed mindset, if somebody presents you with something that challenges you or a criticism, right? You're going to either avoid that challenge or avoid, any type of feedback. You're going to give up, throw your hands up in the air, give up, and just think that, your talents and your abilities are set the way they are. They're all predetermined, right? You're never going to get better. You don't need to work on them. And you're just focused on the outcome. And
to dig deeper into that first one, you're going to avoid the challenge. I think where a lot of the structure, the underlying structure of that avoidance is because people with the fixed mindset judge themselves by where they are at. They are smart, or they are a failure, or they are good at this thing. And when they judge themselves by that, if you challenge them and they are not currently at this moment able to meet that challenge, that is going to down regulate how they feel about themselves. So they would rather avoid that challenge than they would take on that challenge, fail, and then feel worse about themselves.
Right. No, exactly. Here's some more is feel threatened by the success of others. How many people do we know who don't who don't want to be anybody else's cheerleader, right?
Yeah.
Run from error. Do not engage with a desire to look smart, just like you just said, and ignore negative feedback, even though it may be useful. avoid new experiences with fear of failure, and look for people who can reinforce their self-esteem. People that basically would just enable them to be who they're at and can lead to cheating and deception.
Yeah. And this is somebody that looks for a spouse that puts them on a pedestal, right? Or friends that put them on a pedestal. Like, you are this, you are so amazing, you are so hot, you are so smart, you are so whatever the descriptive word after that is. And with that, you end up, it boasts their self-esteem, but you never have somebody that pushes you. You never have somebody that advances who you are and tries to support you to become more.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that other person would. I don't see that as sustainable. Somebody being in that type of relationship, being on. I think
maybe two fixed mindset people together is sustainable.
A fixed mindset person is willing to do that.
Is willing to
have to be the stool for that other person.
I mean, yeah. If you have if you have an overall 4 that's married to an overall 7, they're always going to be. But then they're always going to be, looking up to them and telling them how hot they are and smart they are and how much money they make, and you know what I mean? But if you have 2 people like that, I think that you can maybe sustain it. You always have the person with the upper hand, and then you always have the person that's supporting them, not even supporting them, basically rallying them or propping up their ego, right? Go back to the Ego podcast. That was one of the top podcasts this year, the Ego podcast. But I think where it's really damaging is when you have a growth mindset that is dating or married to a fixed mindset. And I think that becomes trouble.
I think, that's where the gap, the longer you're together, the gap gets wider and wider and wider. Eventually, it's just not sustainable.
She talks about, in the book, she talks about 2 people that were like that. There was, the woman was a growth mindset and the man was fixed mindset. And whenever something would go wrong in the relationship, she would bring it up. And because she would want to work on it, because she is growth minded, and she would say, this is something that I don't like, let's improve it. And he would hear, right? That's what she was saying. And he would hear, you are not this, I don't like it. And so he would instantly go into a shell. He would call his mother, who his mother was she was his ego booster. And so his mother would tell him how amazing he was and awesome he was. And that was his comfort zone, right? Because we all want to think positively about ourselves. And if you're a fixed mindset person, you have to get that external gratification and that external approval. And it ended up ruining their marriage.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. Oh, so let's talk about growth mindset then.
Yes.
Growth mindset is described as somebody that embraces challenges, perseveres in the face of failures, invites failures. Talents and abilities can be developed, and knows that they have talents and abilities that they have no clue that they may have. Focus on the process, not the outcome. Find the inspiration in other successes. Engage deeply and process the error with the desire to correct it. Big thing is accept criticism as a way to learn and embrace novelty with a desire to master new skills. Look for people who challenge him to grow and leads to collaboration and innovation. I think that's important because a lot of the memes we see that keep floating out for the new year is, you're the average of the people that are the 5 closest people to you, or things that are related to that, or
Correct.
Take inventory of the people that, are closest to you. Or I saw a good one the other day is look at people that you hang around with, like a bank account, who are the investments and who are the withdrawals, and, who do you want to keep? So, this is the new year. I'd probably say the biggest thing, even in my life through the last, 1,000 years I've been alive on earth, is always constantly evaluating, the people that are around you, who's strengthening your, getting squared away, who's strengthening your spirituality, your mental abilities, your physicality, who's supporting you with that, and your emotional IQ, who's playing with it or who's helped building that. So, and that you've been through enough changes in your life.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And there's a big difference. There's the people that don't like to see it will fade away as you improve and grow and become, more of a badass. they kind of fade away because they don't like to see it, because they look at it and then they judge themselves on your success and your growth. And if they aren't putting in the effort to make those successes or make those growths, then they feel poorer about themselves. And then you can see them just fade right into the distance.
Yeah. I think there's nothing more fulfilling than, getting to know somebody, being in a relationship, and they always feel that they're stuck. So they may be temporarily in a fixed mindset and they want to be in the growth mindset. They just don't know how to get there. And to watch them blossom, whether it's, I've seen a lot of cases where it's physically, where they're, I don't like using the scale thing, but, let's go back to your scale thing of, let's say they're a 4, but you can really see that they're an 8 to a 10. But it's just that they've lived this life, or people that they've surrounded themselves with have kept them at that 4 level. And it just only takes, a change in mindset, and they just blossom. And, you just want to, tell them, hey, go show yourself off, show those changes off, man. That's,
yeah, and I get it. The scale thing sounds super misogynist, but when I use it, I never mean it in specifically one way. It could be an intelligence scale of 1 to 10, or attractiveness a scale of 1 to 10, or financial stability 1 to 10, right? Or if you're talking about an overall person, you have to realize that scale, it takes everything in, and you might be gorgeous, but you're a fucking cunt. Whoa, excuse me, I just used that word online. I love that word, by the way. And then you're a 3, even though you're hot. Right. So like, you got to realize that when I use that, I'm not using it as a misogynist prick. Yeah. I'm using it as,
I know where you're coming from. I just know on the world scale.
That's why I wanted to elaborate into that. So
the world looks at everything as a 0 to 10 on the superficial scale, let's call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's so many people that I know that, man, physically they could be a 10, but the minute they start letting their personalities out, it's like, oh shit, man, they're like maybe a 3 if they're lucky.
That's why I think a ton of very, very successful movies have been made on the comeback kid, the comeback girl, or the comeback boy, right? Like they grew up kind of pimply and ugly, maybe smart, kind of nerdy. And then, they develop whatever happens to them. Their friends make them, push them to start dressing hotter, or, they get fit, or whatever, and the movie always, it has that kind of story arc, right? Well, those people, and it works in real life too. Those people had to develop a personality early in life because everything, if you don't believe it, everything is about attention. When you're a kid, it's about your parents' attention. When you're in school, it's about the attention of the other, your peers and the teachers and all of that. It's all about attention. And I don't mean attention in a negative way. I mean attention as in like attention. Yeah. And so if you're, if your physically and attractiveness level is low, then you create this great personality, and then people love you for your personality. And then guess what happens if you have that personality and then go through puberty, or, lose a bunch of weight and get hot, like then all of a sudden you're the fucking whole package. Right. And like that, there's been a million movies throughout time made on that whole idea of, the comeback.
Yeah. I think of that one movie, She's All That.
Yeah, She's All That, or She's Out of Your League. Jr. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. And there's something too, I don't remember. I'll have to go back and find it, but I remember somebody talking, I think it was a psychologist or a psychiatrist talking about like, is a generalization clearly, but men generally see the possibility of attractiveness in women. Like they can look at a girl that's dressed down, and they can read their possibility of hotness, right? Doesn't need to have makeup on, but women generally judge on the immediate attractiveness, not necessarily the possibility for attractiveness. So women do that's that. Interesting. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I like I say, take this with a grain of salt, because I can't even remember where I heard it from. Study? And it might even be women judging women versus men judging women. It might not be women judging men and men judging women.
Yeah.
So it might be the initial way that women judge women, because let's face it, like if your woman gets all dressed up, like she's kind of getting dressed up for you, but she's getting dressed up for herself and for other women. Like
that's true. That kind of goes back to, I think, that wedding discussion we had.
Yeah.
Or when they go to a wedding, I've been with people that go to a wedding and they're too busy. Like it's like this judgment, or not even judgment. It's like all these women are on stage at the wedding, not the couple. Yeah. But all these women are on stage and they're all competing against each other for what prize. I have no freaking clue.
And that's the thing, right? It's not like, and it's so weird too, because it's like, what, 80% of these women are married. It's not like they're going to like find a man, right? Or they'll find a hookup or anything like that. They're legitimately just like filling their tank.
But there's some mental criteria there.
There is
you can't wear the same dress.
Yeah.
To
two weddings.
Even
if there's nobody that's going to be at the same wedding.
And the worst thing that happens if somebody else is wearing the same dress that you're wearing.
Yes.
Unless somehow they're besties or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get that. I mean, going back to all these movies, I mean, we can name off about 1 million movies, but most of the people that I know that have, the females I know that have dropped weight, and you said that, well, they have the personalities have developed and then they drop weight. Then the physical catches up with their personalities. A lot of cases, and I don't see that happening. A lot of cases I see all of a sudden the ego overtakes when all of a sudden they make a physical change. Their mind becomes superficial and their ego just.
But then did they have the personality before they lost the weight? Doesn't mean just because they were out of shape and unattractive and then became attractive doesn't mean that they actually developed that personality.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm saying that the magic is the person that did develop the personality and then got attractive, not the person that's been attractive their whole life.
Yeah.
That was my comparison.
Close enough for that. Yeah.
Right? Like you got to have the personality. It's not just going to magically appear. Because there's a lot of people out there that are, fat, dumb, and ugly and still assholes.
That's true.
That
is true.
So I wrote down a few of the studies that are in the book because I'm a very much a science-based person, and the best books that really mean something to me, they go through and they will put the science out there. They'll put an anecdotal story that backs up the science, and then they'll put how to implement it. Right. And so this book is packed full of the actual studies. And so a group of fifth graders were initially asked questions in a survey that would separate them into a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So these questions would be super simple questions that would be like, do you think that your smartness is innate, or I guess it's fifth graders, so they're going to use dumbed down words, right? Like, do you think that you are just as smart as you are, or do you think you can grow your smartness, right? And then that would separate the kids. And so then they were showed a box, and it was just an empty cardboard box, but they said, in this box is a test that measures something that's really important for your school career. And then right after that, they asked them some questions to make sure they believed them, right? To make sure the kids believed the researchers that there was a test that would actually measure these things. Okay. And then they started asking questions about what the kids thought about the test. And they said, do you think that test measures your intelligence? And that simple question right there, the fixed mindset kids said, yeah, I think that it does. The growth mindset kids said, I don't think there's really tests that can measure your intelligence. Or they said, do you think that test measures your intelligence, measures how intelligent you're going to be when you become an adult, like how intelligent you will eventually become? And the fixed mindset kids said, yeah, I think that test could be in there. And the growth mindset kids would say, there's no way a test could measure right now how smart I'm going to be when I'm an adult. And it was that simple. Now, if you take that idea, just take that simple idea and put yourself in those two kids, right? We'll call them, what did I call them? I called them Frank and Grant, fixed mindset and growth mindset. And Frank with the F is fixed mindset and Grant with a G is growth mindset. Now think about those two boys. Let's say they're at the same mental level. They're at the same intelligence level in 5th, 6th grade, right? And that's a pretty informative, pretty imperative years in there from, 5th to 7th grade. There's a lot happening in those times. And let's say they're in algebra class or math class, I guess in that year, I don't even know, whatever. And a teacher who's putting together an advanced placement program, like her whole job is to put together an advanced placement program for kids that are, advanced or could be advanced or want to be advanced. And she comes in and she sits down and she talks to those two boys and she says, I'm putting together a program and you guys both qualify because you're both, in the top half of your class or whatever. Okay. And she says, it's voluntary, but we're going to take and we're going to do 4 years of learning in a year. And that's going to put us so far ahead that by the time you're through high school, you'll have most of your college credits done. Right. And Grant with his growth mindset, he looks at it and he goes, well, I'm good at math, but I'm not amazing at math, right? Because he's got the growth mindset. And we just said that he understands that nothing can tell him how smart he's going to be. So Grant takes on the challenge. Frank has a fixed mindset. First of all, two things Frank has going has going against him is the first thing is Frank is completely judging who he is by where he is today. And so if he is challenged and it's hard and he doesn't meet the challenge, he's going to feel like a failure. And Frank looks and goes, well, I'm just average. I'm the top, I'm just above average in my class.
Yeah.
Why would I ever be able to be in this advanced program? And that right there is at its core, the difference in how a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Think about like two diverging roads, right? And I'm using my hands. And I realize you guys are listening to a podcast, but think in your mind, and you have you have one road and it splits off, and it only takes a 10-degree difference, right? One road goes 10 degrees to the right, one road goes straight. Now take that and drive 100 miles down that road. Think about how much further off the path that one little 10-degree right turn takes. That's probably 500 miles difference between where Frank ended up and where Grant ended up. And it's these simple things that change the challenges that you're willing to take. They change your confidence. They change everything over and over and over, 50 times a day, 10 times a day, 100 times a day. Some days nothing, some days a bunch more. And that right there is the difference in how a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset in a child could change who it becomes an adult.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think even as adults, I think taking that same concept versus, these cut and dry New Year resolutions that never sustain. I mean, if you can start making the little changes, the little 10% changes, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you're going to see, miles and miles of difference in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Places you go to eat. I mean, I know some people that spent their whole life doing things like even eating certain foods. And just by trying something starting on day one, that's so completely out of their, realm of comfortability, 2-3 years later, now they're a whole completely different person. And it's just, all it is taking a decision just to do it one time. And that's all it is.
Yeah. I find that with meditation a lot when I talk to people about meditation. Well, I could never sit for 5 minutes and not think of anything. No, right now you can't. Right now, if I tell you to sit for 5 minutes and not think of anything and you've never practiced meditation, you're going to make it about 7 seconds. 7 seconds.
Yeah.
But guess what? If we try today and we do that for 5 minutes every day for 3 months, and every time in that 7 seconds, you catch your mind and you bring it back to nothing. And then in that 5 minutes, how many times is that? I don't know. I'm not going to do the math, but 100 times, right? Yeah. Then you just did 100 reps. And then tomorrow it might be 99 reps. And then in 2 weeks, it might be 70 reps. But that means that time, that 7 seconds might be 15 seconds. And in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, you might make it 3 minutes without thinking of anything, nothing, just zero white mind. And if you guys haven't gone back and listened to the meditation podcast, it is one of the most influential things in high achievers that they all do. But to go back, like that's one thing, like that's a thing that fixed mindset people, I could never do that.
Right.
No, you're right. Right now you can't.
It's not like pull-ups.
It is a lot like pull-ups. I can't do pull-ups. My wife was on a mission. She's on a mission to do pull-ups because she used to be able to do a few, right? Yeah. But then we got in that car accident. And she had never really gone back to them. And she never really did a lot of them anyways, but she could do them. Like when, before our accident, she could get up in a pull-up bar and do 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And then she exploded her wrist into tiny little pieces. And it's all back. So she was like on a mission the last 2 months. Like, so she's been on the assisted pull-up machine and she's been dropping her weight and dropping her weight and dropping her weight. So if you guys have never used an assisted pull-up machine, basically it takes weight off of your body. So you are standing on a machine or kneeling on a machine and it makes a 130-pound person minus whatever you select the weight at. So, maybe she started at 40 pounds. So it would make her like she was 90 pounds and she was doing them. And doing them. And then she sent me a video from the gym the other day and she jumped up on the pull-up bar, just a regular pull-up bar, and she did like 2 or 3. And it was the most excited I've seen her in a long ass time. It was awesome because she had set a goal and she had accomplished it. And that was a growth mindset right there. It wasn't, I can't do pull-ups. It was, I can't right now do 2 or 3 pull-ups.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm so big on the pull-ups thing because it changes how people look.
Yeah.
Because it gets rid of that pear shape. And,
Yeah.
Your pull-ups affect everything you do. Your bench gets better. Everything gets better because it's your back. It's one of the 2 largest muscles in your body.
You really find your weaknesses when you're doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
Like it points out your weaknesses instantly.
Yeah.
Because if I jump on a pull-up bar, I can do, full dead hangs 5 to 8. And I can keep doing them. I can take a break and keep doing them. But that's about all I get is 5 to 8.
Yeah.
But man, you can see I can feel right where your weakness is.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks, but I remember, oh man, when I was at my worst, I remember getting to like 60 or 70 pull-ups, and that's not consecutive.
No, yeah.
But, it's getting that 100 and that determination to get that 100. All of a sudden, I'm down to 1.
Yep.
I got to jump up on it, do 1 dead hang, and then hop off, stretch a little bit, get that muscle, and until you get to 100. But there's nothing more exhilarating than getting to that 100 and all of a sudden be like, you know what, I'm going to do 10 more. And you know what? I mean, now it's like every 2-3 days, depending on how my back feels, because I'm doing rows and other shit with it too. I'll do 110 to 150 now, but I'll change my grip positions. Or, I'll offset that. Some days I'll strap a 25 or 45 pound plate and then you do, shorter rep pull-ups. But it's just such a, like I said, that's on the physical side for me.
Yep.
It's such an exhilarating exercise, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, I don't like them at all.
Yeah.
I don't like doing them. And I can sit in this office and I could be like, you know what? I could probably wait a day. They're a little sore, but once I start doing them and you get done, there's never been a day I regretted doing any. So.
And you're pretty good at them now. Is there anything that you're not good at that you ignore? Like things that right? Because we have those.
We all have
those.
I was going to say running, but problem is, once I get running, I'm actually pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I'd love to say swimming, but I can't say that.
Yeah, it's been a while since you swam. You probably fucking jump right back in. You're a fish.
I know. This summer, I just did that one where I did underwater for 2 laps under the pool. I was like, oh, okay, I still got it. I guess I'm not 90 years old yet, but part of that too is, the one thing I was bad at was having patience in the sauna. And sauna is kind of, I guess it's got the cardiovascular qualities too.
Yeah. So,
but you're not in motion.
There hasn't been many studies to extrapolate this out yet, but basically you get a life extending benefit from sauna. Now, we don't know if that can stack on top of cardiovascular because you also get life extending benefits from cardiovascular. So, there could be a stacking ability where, you could get 5 to 10% longer lifespan. And this is all done with animals and with telomere length and a lot of stuff like that. So this doesn't mean that your life is going to be extended if you fucking get hit by a bus, right? Duh. Right. We all know that.
Yeah. So I have a far infrared.
Yeah.
So they're saying that there's, it's equivalent to doing cardio. The problem for me is, when I first started, I was like, oh man, 10, 15 minutes sitting here sweating, doing absolutely nothing is like driving me nuts. Because I don't mind doing cardio if I'm doing something,
mm-hmm.
If I'm going somewhere. I'm not a big treadmill guy, but if I go outside and I'm sitting there watching birds and stuff, I could probably, I can crank them out. Not an issue.
Yeah.
Swimming, I know I'm getting somewhere.
Yeah.
But when I'm sitting in a sauna, I'm sitting in a cube, basically cooking myself, looking at nothing.
You do it without your phone?
Well, I started my phone, then my phone gets hot, then I open the door quick and I flip it on the bed.
The phone definitely gets hot, yeah.
But yeah, you're just sitting there sweating, and I'll throw the phone out. Now it's to the point where, I can get 20, 25 minutes in, and then I'll throw it out, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to crank out another, 3 to 5 minutes here and just watch that clock. And it feels great when I get it done, but it took a while. I didn't like that thing. I bought it because I knew it was good for me.
Yep.
But it took a while.
See, there's a big difference too, not to get totally off the mindset train, but there's a big difference too in the type of cardio that you're doing, and that's what a lot of people they're not able to distinguish, right? So what are your goals with your cardio? Because if your goals are to lose weight, you're going to do a different kind of cardio than if your goals are to build endurance, or if your goals are to build your recovery time, right? Because if your goals are to build your recovery time, you're going to be doing, sprint intervals. If your goals are to lose weight, you're going to be doing a medium heart rate, slow burn cardio, so maybe, and I don't remember this exactly, but your goal heart rate is going to be between like 90 and 130, right?
Yeah.
And it's more of I think they call it like a talking heart rate, right? So you could still have a conversation with somebody, and that's like the kind of burning. Whereas if you're trying to build endurance, right, for an endurance race, or for, maybe you're going hiking, and you're going, mountain hunting, then you're talking some sort of like, I think it's under 110 or under 115 is where you want to keep your heart rate. So you guys got to realize that, like, when we talk about cardio, when anybody talks about cardio, there's all different goals, and you need to have a goal at what you're doing. I'm not just like, I'm going to do 20 minutes of cardio. Well, what kind of cardio?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, for me, I'd rather it be functional. Where if I'm carrying a pack, I'm not going to be going up a hill and be, drop dead by the time I get up to the top.
Maybe you should come do the stairs.
I do the stairs.
Yeah.
Oh, the stair machine.
Yeah, that will fuck your day up.
Yeah, probably. I guess.
Yeah, that thing's a bitch.
I just see everybody up on there, and then they do that, like, that leg kick in the back to get.
No, that's just the chicks with the butts.
Okay.
That's just the chick with the butts. That's the glute activation. No, I like the dudes that lean on the stairs. Like, they lean so much that, like, maybe their 170 pound frame is really only about 120 pounds. And they're like, yeah, I'm doing it. Like, nah, bro, you got to slow down, and you don't get to touch that bitch. You don't get to touch the handles.
Yeah.
So we talked about, to get back to the core topic of the podcast. We talked about kids with a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Now let's think about the difference in, like, a teacher with a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And
teacher. Wow.
So think about the difference in a teacher that thinks that intelligence is fixed versus a teacher that thinks intelligence is developable. Developable? Is that the right word?
That's a word, yeah.
Yeah, right. Think about how they go into a class and how they would teach a class, how they would challenge their students, right? Like, it's the difference between, can I teach these kids versus how can I teach these kids? Okay. And so she elaborates a story of Jaume Escalante, who was a teacher that went into Garfield High School, which is one of the worst high schools in LA. Mainly Hispanic, very, very low test scores, very low interest level in the curriculum. The kids are basically just there because they have to be there.
Yeah.
And Jaume has a very, very strong growth mindset. And he went in and he had to teach calculus, right? And he's teaching calculus to inner city, predominantly Spanish kids in a school where they don't give a fuck. But he didn't ask himself, can I teach these kids? He asked himself, how can I teach these kids? And him and his colleague, what was his colleague's name? Benjamin Jimenez, not only taught these inner city kids college level calculus, but they took the class to the top of the nation's charts. Only 3 public schools in the country had more kids taking the advanced placement calculus test than his students by the end of the year. And that's just the difference between a normal teacher and a teacher with a growth mindset.
Well, at that level.
So now take that, right? And then think about how much we're leaving on the table in this country if we have a bunch of fixed mindset teachers.
Yeah.
And not to say, I mean, they're still great people. And that's the thing is I don't want this to seem like those teachers are bad people if they have a fixed mindset. They're not. They're still there. They're still doing great things. They're still trying. But just think about the difference in how a teacher is going to teach a slower kid or a less advanced kid or a below average kid, right? They're going to give them, if they have a fixed mindset, they're going to challenge them less.
Yeah.
They're going to let them get by with a little bit more. They're going to let them squeak through with a little bit lower grades. They're going to give them a little bit less reading or give them a little bit less challenge, and then take that and go year after year after year after year. And you've got the difference in somebody who's actually a world beater that started out behind and somebody that maybe started out average and actually got slowed down and now is below average because they've gotten beat out by growth mindset kids that are being taught by growth mindset teachers.
Yeah. I mean, look what's happening in the inner cities.
Yeah.
You know, and what's funny about it is there's so many movies about growth mindset teachers that go into an inner city school and turn it around and be the hero and, you know, have this high yield, you know, all these superstars that they get out of these schools.
Yeah.
But yet we somehow can't tie Hollywood with reality.
So the IQ test, right there, right? Like the IQ test was not originally invented to test your IQ right now. It was originally invented to quantify, which if you guys don't know what quantify means, it means basically put a number on, right? Yeah. Quantify a child's intelligence level right now. And then it was to test how the Paris educational system was developing these kids. So they would put a quantitative number on right now. And then the next year they would test them again to see, are we doing anything that's helping? That was originally what the IQ test was designed for, so that they could judge the school system, not judge the child. When I heard that like blew up my mind because I have always thought of the IQ test as judging the person, right? And it had nothing to do with judging the person. It was to judge the development. Yeah,
no, I would agree with that. Judging the development. It's kind of like a blood test, right?
Like we just talked about, right?
You have to know where you're at to find out, okay, what do I need to introduce to improve that number?
Exactly. And you know, another one, I know we talked about this one before, but an amazing one is the difference in what your internal biases, how your internal biases can actually affect your own performance in a fixed versus growth mindset. So just like the fifth grade kids, they brought in a bunch of adults, men, women, all minorities, and majority population. So big group of people that were all basically like a normal population. Yeah. And they first gave them the questionnaire that would separate them between fixed and growth mindset, because that's the thing is when you're going to do these studies, you have to know at the end, was this person that did this thing a fixed mindset person or a growth mindset person? Okay. So they give them those first, and then they separate them into groups and they give them tests. One group is just handed the test. And then the other group is handed the test and then they're primed. So let's say they're primed as though they would say something to the effect of, here's a standard math exam. Women generally don't perform as well as men, but just do your best. Just a simple priming statement like that. Or here's a simple English exam. Latinos definitely do a little worse on this, but it's okay. Just do your best. It's a simple priming statement. They gave them all the test. So of the fixed mindset groups, here's the first astonishing fact of this study. And this has nothing really to do with the fixed versus growth mindset. But in the groups that were primed, the group that was primed, so if it was women and they were primed towards women doing poorly, did worse than the group that was just handed the test. Okay? So they were primed with a statement like women generally do worse on these tests, and they did worse because they had an internal bias. Wow. Here's where the fucking astonishing part comes in is the women and Latinos and African Americans that had a growth mindset did exactly the same in the prime group as in the unprimed group. So their internal bias was not triggered because they didn't have an internal bias that the priming could trigger. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well?
I think so. So the growth mindset group that gets primed that, women generally don't do well in this test. So you're saying that they came into this test without having an internal bias.
Yes. Or we don't know that, right? The science will not tell us
something.
That.
A growth mindset person would be like, oh, just because you're telling me that's bullshit. I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Yes, or it just didn't affect them because it was never a goal, right? Like they didn't know that was the whole part of the test was the priming difference. Yeah. As far as they knew, the other group was getting told the same exact thing.
Oh yeah,
right? So they didn't know that was the difference. The separation of the people was because one was getting primed and one wasn't getting primed.
Yeah.
And that's astonishing. So if you have a growth mindset, internal biases affect you less, or external biases affect you less than if you have a fixed mindset. If you have a fixed mindset and someone has a bias, or you have an innate internal bias, it's going to affect your performance negatively if that bias includes you.
Well, so take that and apply that to like some of the social issues that are currently happening.
100%. And this is my favorite post that I repost at least once or twice a year. Epictetus, 2,000 years ago, said, "Tell a man he is disadvantaged enough, and soon he will believe it himself."
Well,
right.
So in the last 2 years, you have a ethnic group that have been told they've been disadvantaged.
We have multiple ethnic groups that have been told they're disadvantaged. We have,
except for Asians.
Yeah, you guys are advantaged. You have to perform better to get into the same school that I would.
Yeah, apparently if you're smart and rich, you're an Asian.
What?
Quoting Tom McDonald.
Oh, okay. Got it. That's pretty, yeah, you're right. Love me some Tom McDonald. But yeah, so take that and apply it to our current social system. Now, the thing is there's also another side to this, and the other side to the social issue. The other side is we also can't look at a disadvantaged child who was raised by fuck ups and say, figure it out. Pull up your bootstraps and get to work, kid. You got to get your shit together, because that kid's got no fucking idea how to do it. Right?
Yeah.
So teaching a man how to fish includes teaching him how to fish, not just telling him to fend for him fucking self. And that's the other side of this. That's the part that very few people understand, is that means lending a hand. That means an outreach hand that says, here, come, let me help you figure this out.
Yeah. Which I think ties into where a lot of these fatherless homes, these sons need a male mentor.
Yes.
And there are some programs out there, but I don't think those programs can keep up.
One of the biggest things that comes from Buddhist teaching is not one of the biggest things, but one big idea is when you see the way, this might even be a Miyamoto Musashi quote. When you see the way in one thing, you see it in all things. And I think about that more and more and more every day as I become, 1/1000th closer to becoming this, enlightened, or trying to become enlightened. Is I feel like the more and more and more I see, everything has to do with balance, right? And there's a masculine and a feminine, and some men contain a lot more of the masculine than the feminine. Some women contain a lot more of the masculine than the feminine. But a child growing up needs both, needs the balance of both energies. It needs the ideas that come with the masculine along with the ideas that come with the feminine. And I think that's where the damage of the two person household comes in. If you had a perfectly balanced mother or a perfectly balanced father that could put both of those energies into a child, or if you have two dads and they balance out between the masculine and the feminine, or two moms and they balance out between the masculine and the feminine, you're going to get that balance of energy, versus a single parent household that doesn't get that balance of the masculine and the feminine. It leaves something behind. Whatever energy is missing gets left behind. And I think right now we're just living through the 20 or 30 years of a lot of kids being raised without that masculine energy.
Yeah.
And everything that comes with it, the ideas that come with it, the empathy that comes with it, you fucked up, but let's figure out how to do it better next time. Right? Because that's one thing that I always go back to, but in the households that are missing a father, is a lot of times, and this is all generalizations, a lot of times a mother has some unconditional love for you, and she sticks up for you and she covers for you and she knows that you messed up, but she kind of just lets it go. Or she might punish you, but you don't get talked to about it. Whereas the fatherly, more masculine energy is really legitimately like holds you accountable for your actions. Doesn't necessarily put it on you as a human being. You fucked up, not you are a fuck up, right? But you fucked up. Now let's figure out how to move forward from this. And that, I think, is what's missing.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we covered the mindsets deep enough. Fuck, we might just have to start at the beginning and just go right back through and do a bunch of these. Cause honestly, like I look back, I did a post today. If you guys didn't see it, I did the top 9 and there's 3 or 4 guests in there, but there's like, really, I can see what is, what you guys are really enjoying and what is really helping. And man, I feel like if I could redo those podcasts every 2 months, like just beating you over the head, because I think that's what grows change. That's what inspires change, is hearing the same message or the same idea from 5 different people or 10 different people or 100 different people over and over and over. And then that's why you are the average of the 5 closest people around you, because that's the same messages that are imprinting on you and altering your mentality and changing your ideas and introducing new things to you from their 5 closest people, right?
Yeah. No, and maybe we got to go back and, reiterate the, squared away principles over and over.
Yeah.
But for me, I find the growth mindset and fixed mindset is always a battle. Even though we can say, well, we're more in the growth mindset. Well, I don't know, the minute you slack off or, mentally just are not on, sometimes those fixed mindset characteristics, man, they can creep up on you pretty fast.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Nobody is all one or the other. And that after reading the book the second time, that's what I really hit me, like, oh, there isn't like a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Like, fuck, I'll have days where I'm extreme on both sides.
Yeah.
It's just trying to live more time, trying to put more, if we had 2 buckets, right? And we started the day with 1,000 red stones and we're just carrying these 1,000 red stones around. And I had 1 bucket that was the growth mindset and 1 bucket, the fixed mindset. And every time my mindset plays a part in my day, whether it's to take a challenge or do something, like I put a stone in one of those buckets. The goal is to have more stones than I did yesterday in the growth mindset bucket.
Yeah. And the Buddhist saying that I heard, I think it was a couple of days ago, is what is one thing that, what is the thing that we most often take for granted, or the one thing that we don't have enough of? And it's time. Yeah. And for me, I'm turning 50 this year, and I look back at my life and it's like, well, how fast did the last 20, 30 years go? I mean, it screamed. I got, my kids are like full grown now, and I'm still like putting together pictures of them when they were little, and it flies by. And I'm looking at, my son and I watched like the Harry Potter series, over the weekend, and there's an actor in there, Alan Rickman. He's been in like 50 plus movies. And I was like, wow, how come I haven't seen him else? And I didn't realize he had passed away 2016, pancreatic cancer at 69, right? And this week we lost Betty White at 99. But we've lost so many people in the past year in their 40s, 50s, 60s. It's unbelievable. And it's true. You don't know. I mean, I'm at 50 now. I may have, if I'm like, Alan Rickman, I may have 19 years. And the last 19 years went by fast. So, carrying those red stones, you never know. Might get hit by a bus tomorrow. Yep. So, never say that you're going to, change. I'll change, next year. Or I'll change over the. I'm
going to wait till the first of the year.
Yeah. You never know when you have time. Just do it today.
Today. A little bit better today. And then a little bit better tomorrow. And a little bit better the next day.
Yeah.
All right. That's a wrap.